We are back with Dr. Egner, Bill, as some of you would like to call him. Bill, we are now starting chapter 7, the last chapter in the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus gives. It's this passage that talks about judging, right? Specifically, it's a passage that seems to say we aren't to judge people. Almost that first verse, if I judge someone else, it almost feels like a quid pro quo. If I judge someone else, God's going to judge me. Kind of makes me feel like what this is maybe teaching me is that judging is off limits. Give me some more context. Give me some more perspective on that of how to read this.
Yeah. I think if you just glance at this passage for the very first time, you would say that's what Jesus is saying. I think you need to ask yourself the question, though, in your group, is that really what Jesus is saying? Or is he beginning to put some guardrails on how we're to go about judging rather than just don't judge? And I think it's the latter. I think he's giving us some guardrails that are going to help us to do what is very important and necessary, but also needs to be done in the right way.
You even referenced this earlier, the idea of other contexts in Scripture. I mean, there's other places in Scripture that would help us even understand, give more clarity and depth to this. Take us there.
So the end of 1 Corinthians 5, you can check a passage there that I think will affirm that Jesus is saying we are to judge, but he's definitely giving us some boundaries and some guardrails in that. Otherwise, then if Jesus is saying don't judge, then Paul is contradicting Jesus when Paul will say at the end of 1 Corinthians 5 of what to do about judging. And I don't think Paul is going to be in contradiction to the Lord. And so they're both talking about judging, but I think they're going to be very careful to establish some boundaries, some guardrails on that.
How we do that. Yeah. Okay, then last thing before these groups jump in. Verse 6, I get hung up on. Verse 6, right? Don't give dogs what is holy, trample pearls before pigs. Give us some context, some understanding from your experience, from your knowledge. What in the world is he talking about?
Yeah, it's a challenging verse, or two verses there. I guess it's one, just verse 6. I think what Jesus is really talking about here is judging is a family business.
That's good.
It's not a family to outsider business. It's something that ought to be conducted well, correctly, but within the family. Not to, if I judge somebody who's not a Christ follower, it's like throwing what's important to me beneath the feet of pigs and it gets trampled underneath.
They're not going to receive it.
They're not going to receive it. They're not going to respect it. They're not going to agree with it.
That's good.
And instead, they're just going to turn and attack me. So it really is an issue to keep within the family rather than to share with those who are outside the family.
I love that insight. And I think especially it's going to be helpful. Have somebody in your group go to the end of 1 Corinthians chapter 5. It's really going to help deepen what Jesus is saying here and give more context. We hope you have a sweet time in your groups, that you dig deeply and apply this in your life in a way that glorifies God and is also sweet for you. God bless you.